And we're on.
All right. We truly are. Only addition I have to this sutra is that we can use Katapayadi Varga in all divisional charts. We can use the principles he gives us also in all divisional charts. You're not restricted. He gives us very open hands for this. That also enables him to speak of divisional charts for us. Even name them with the same Varga methods. To add to what I've said, it can also be used for Arudas. We have to be familiar with this system to fully be able to decode Jaimini's work. If we are not familiar with it, we cannot read what he's writing. So Katapayadi Varga is a very integral part of the Jaimini Sutras. And when you learn it, and when we'll be reading the sutras, I'll be expecting you to know, okay, this means this means that, and also hidden meanings. I'll be expecting you to tell me, there's a hidden meaning there, maybe something we missed, maybe we should calculate that like that. Because that is Jaimini. There's a lot of hidden meanings in the sutras. So we have to become very familiar with this. And now we'll be describing specifically this numerological method. We take basically the Sanskrit alphabets, and they're divided into parts or portions called Varga. And they are based on certain similarities they have. These similarities are related to how they're pronounced. Like all guttural sounds. All guttural sounds are pronounced from the same place in the throat. Ka, ga, ma. These are all guttural sounds. So they belong to one portion, one part. Labials. They're spoken of using the lips. Pa, fa. Is that with the lip? It is. It's a fricative lip sound. Fa, ba, ma, or bha is also there. Right? The vowels are basically all sounds which we pronounce just by opening our mouth and shaping the throat and the mouth in a certain way. I will. That's all vowel sounds. It all comes from the same place. They belong to one group. Semi-vowels are a bit peculiar. Whilst we can largely group the other sounds, semi-vowels are a mix between vowels and consonants. E and A become ya. Ya. So the ya sound comes from E and A. U and A become wa. Va and wa come from U and A. So semi-vowels are those vowels which originate in the vowels, but have become consonants. But there are two semi-vowels which find a peculiar place in at least our alphabet. Ra and La. How on earth did they ever form any vowel sound? That's because in Sanskrit there are two vowel sounds, R and L, which they consider vowels. They call them swaras. They do have their flaws because they are not actually having a body, per se. When we put them into the signs, the 16 vowels become 12 vowels, because 4 of these sounds are said to be eunuchs. They're neuters. These are R and R and L and L. And you may think that they are consonants, but they are vowels according to Sanskrit. Okay? And because of them, we have a semivowel called Ra and a semivowel called La. Ha is a semivowel because there is a vowel which is A. Visarga, have you heard of Visarga? It looks like 2 dots. You know when you say Namah, that Ah sound. That's a vowel sound, that Ah. And that has become Ha as a semivowel. The semivowels also include 3 S sounds, which essentially are existing because the S sound is supposed to be like Shakti. It has to interact as soon as creation takes place. But in the vowel stage, creation is not taking place. It is your soul is related to the vowels. Or your soul level energy is related to the vowel sounds. Without the vowel sound, consonants and semi-vowels cannot be heard. It is because of the vowel, because of the soul, that there is life in sound. They're interrelated. In the Katapayari Varga, these Sanskrit alphabets are divided into 5 groups. I'll show you these groups now. The vowels. There are 16 vowels which represent the soul, and they're grouped as a Varga. Where does a fit in Katapayadi? It should be ka, ta, pa, and ya. There should, if the a sounds should have been there, it should have been a Katapaya. A Katapayadi Varga, right? But it's not there. Which is also implied by that these vowels have a numerical value of 0. They get a 0 value. They don't have a number. All of them are just 0. Which is important from the spiritual perspective. 0 means it's the closest to God. The shunya, the void. When we have these vowel sounds, you'll see here they are. This is, the order is very important also. The order is important. This is not arbitrary. I've listed them in order. It becomes a, then a. This a is the same as, do you know what schwa is? There's a sound called schwa. When you learn phonetics, there's this sound called a. This is not a. This is a. This is a. Okay. Every sound which is just said as it is, like k. That sound is this, and it's called schwa. Good thing to study. You should, if you know this, you'll solve a bunch of problems with phonetics and language. So, then then a, I, then I, r, r. You see that long portion? It's longer. L. L. You see how I'm forcing not to say a vowel sound? I should be able to use this as a fricative. Phonetics. This is a long O. Then oo. Oo, sorry, just oo. Then oo. E. I. O. Ow. Ah. These are the vowels. Okay, good. These 4 are those which do not manifest. In fact, these 4 are supposed to represent Brahma's first 4 children. And they didn't want to have children of their own. They were the first rishis. Because of that, these 4 sounds are called rishi sounds. And by adding ra or la to any mantra, there's a rishi in the mantra. And enables you to move between this world and the next. These 4 sounds enable that. They're jumping between this world and the ethereal world, the para. As a result of which they are not stable in this world. So we normally remove them to leave 12 vowel sounds. But in Katapayadi Varga we have to include them. I'll show you how also. Because obviously if they have 0 value, how do we use them? So they have value to some extent. Because this r becomes ra. Whenever there's r written in any sound or word, it becomes ra. And this l becomes la. So they get value. Now you can appreciate why they're moving between this shunya stage of the vowels and the semi-vowels. They're moving in between the worlds. And they manifest because of this power. You see this oo sound here? It's about in the middle, right? Alright? It's about in the middle. See? So we have in one end, oo in the middle. Is not at the end, but close to the end. So we have aum spreading over these sounds. Okay? This oo is the bridge. We have to learn from this. That means in every Sanskrit varga, the beginning is like Brahma, the end is like Shiva. One of these is Shiva. Both actually Shiva, I'll tell you. And the middle is Vishnu. And this one in the middle is the bridge. It bridges the gap between this and this. If this does not exist, then the two cannot come together. This also will replicate itself when you speak of the consonants. So we have to look at the middle of the consonants to understand that which is the bridge. This is Vishnu.
Yes,
As you
it's
know.
Brahma and Shiva.
Can you please pronounce those L sounds?
L.
And the other one,
Longer.
like
L. Actually, the first one is just L.
L.
Not
L.
La. Not La. Just L.
L.
L. Exactly.
L.
Exactly. It becomes La when it manifests. Here it is unmanifest. L and L.
And the other one,
This. R.
no, the long L.
This was L. This was L. Just longer. It's all it is longer.
Okay.
That's the only difference. I know it's confusing, but it's just longer. Now I can keep an eye on it.
No, it's
Now we come to the first consonant varga. These have value. All the consonants have value. And we're already going to group them in planets to appreciate them more. The first 10 consonants begin with ka and cha. Why do I say both of them? Because these first 5 are for one varga called ka varga. And these 5 are cha varga. Because katapayadi varga must consist of 10, which is 2 vargas per slot. These two come together in one group. And they're numbered from 1 to 9, and 0 is the last. Okay? Should we recite them once so you get the pronunciation? Ka.
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 Then ka.
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 Good. That's good. Ga.
Ga.
Then gha.
Ga.
Na.
No.
No, somebody say
No.
na.
No.
Not na. Na.
No.
No.
The same
Nasal.
sound or voice or placement in your throat that you used for ga is going to be the same for na.
No.
Ga na, ga na, ga na. Ganga, ganga, ganga is the same sound. When you say ganga, you don't say ganga, you say ganga.
Anta.
That's that sound, that's that na. Ganga. Good. So whenever in doubt about one of these ends, try to say the others. Kanka, ganga, kakanka. Okay? Cha,
Cha.
cha,
Cha.
ja,
Ja.
ja,
Cha.
nya.
Nya.
Good. You're good at this. Have you noticed that it's the same placement in your mouth that you are pronouncing these sounds? It's the same placement for all of them. You're just changing the sound slightly. The friction is changing a little bit. Okay. Now, so this is Brahma over here. This is the first sound. Brahmakshara, we call it. Ka. You know? Somebody said ka and Brahma was created. Like, hello. This would be Shiva. Nya. Nya. What?
My favorite vowel.
Nya.
Vowel consonant.
Nya, nya, nya.
Yep.
Nga becomes Vishnu here. Nga. Alright? This is very important because this means this sound is binding these two bridges here, these sound alphabets over here. It's binding them. It has a numerical value of 5. It's quite important. You know the sound, the word ahankara. Ahankara is the 2 words aham. It's actually aham. It's not even ahang to begin with. The word aham is just aham. Aham. And then kara means that which is causing. So aham is I, myself. Me, myself, and I. Kara is what is acting or doing. Okay? So that which causes me to believe I exist, that bridge which causes me to believe that, is this fellow over here? No. Because when you add aham and kara together, you get ahankara. Not ahamkara, ahankara. So this acts as a means to make the soul part of this world. This one sound, ma. Now this sound over here, this nya. When we do katapa yadi varga, this sound nya becomes the same as the sound gya. It becomes the same as the sound gya. So that if you see the word gya written anywhere, you will use this instead. It's important for me to tell you this. Gya is a derived sound, gya, as in jnana, right? You've heard that, jnana. So this is actually its true initial representation before it becomes gya. Nya becomes gya. That's why some people they say jnana or jnana because of this sound over here. One second. Now the next 10 consonants are ruled by Mercury and Jupiter. Before we had Mars and Venus. That grouping is important. Mars and Venus are opposite each other. We call that group of sounds, of ka varga if you may, ka and cha, as male and female. Extremes of male and female actually. It's not even balanced male-female, it's extremes, Mars and Venus. They could have put Sun and Moon. Male and female Mars, Venus there's more friction there. It's more extreme over there. It is all this concept of being masculine and feminine which is coming over there. Very rudimentary gender differentiation. This group is called the Mercury-Jupiter group where knowledge is being exchanged. Student-teacher. It's more peaceful. Right? This is the same as the dual signs. Mercury and Jupiter lord the dual signs only. So this group signifies that communication between dual signs. Let's say them. Now these first 5, they have a distinct pronunciation. When you have to say them, you say it with what we call murdanya. Your tongue lifts itself and touches the top of your palate. So instead of this, which is dental, this is dental, this is palatial. I think it's the word. Palatial, do you know that?
I
It's
think
called palatial.
I've heard of the word, but
So you lift it slightly and say ta, ta. Can you hear the difference when I say ta?
Yeah.
This is ta,
Ta.
ta and ta, ta and ta.
Ta.
We do use this even in languages which say they do not have these sounds. Because it's part of the language. Like, you thought you didn't say Ganga, but I showed you, you say Ganga. But you say it's the same end, Ganga. You don't say Ganga, you say Ganga. Right? So that N is part of their language. Similarly, this Ta is part of the language. You rarely use it at the beginning of a word. We might use it in the context of Shasta. Shasta. We don't say Shasta, we say Shasta. See the difference? People usually they say T instead of T. But that depends. I usually like to say T. So let's try. Ta.
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 ta,
Da.
Da.
Dha.
Ta.
Na.
Na.
Ta.
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 Da.
Da.
Dha.
Da.
Na.
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 This na here is 0,
normal.
right? Remember the previous one, which was nya, which also had 0? Which I said that's like gya. So when you add gya and na, you get gyana. They both get 0. So the word jnana, when I asked my Guruji once, I said, Guruji, what's the difference between the word jnana and vijnana? I was asking from a perspective of knowledge. I said, which type of jnana is jnana and which type of jnana or knowledge is vijnana? Right? And he said, jnana is that which leads back to the shunya, the void, the soul. Vijnana does not lead back to the soul. Can you see why? Jnana becomes 0. But if you add V, you'll soon see Va becomes 4, and suddenly there's no 0, there's no void. So just by knowing Katapayadi Varga, you can actually know a meaning of a word. Jnana is spiritual knowledge. Vijnana may not be spiritual knowledge. Just by knowing numbers, you know meaning. That's astrology for you. Astrologers, they're not talking about meaning and etymology and this. No, there's this number, this is what it means. That's the meaning. We do that. Astrologers take everything in this world and convert into numbers. You can derive meaning about this world just by using numbers. I think that lamp needs more attention.
More attention?
It needs more ghee.
I did put more.
Yeah, but it's, as you see, the way it burns it.
Yes, but if I put more, it
That's okay.
it's
Never mind.
I think.
Mislim treba taj fitilj da izbaciš malo napolje jer ovako gori cijela taca.
To add more ghee or to throw?
Add more ghee. Then in the lunchtime, if we have the opportunity, we'll change the wick. That's when we break. So this is the communication between student and teacher. We are currently doing varga to each other right now.
See, everything converted to numbers and she counting is boring. Shame on you.
Where is that? Oh, it's there. All right. The next 5 consonants, note here, they're not 10. The next are not 10. How? Let's try and go back. You'll notice something here. We had ka, right? Ta, pa. It's the beginning sound of each varga.
Yeah.
Kata payadi. We're getting to ya in a minute, don't worry. We'll get there. So pa. There are only 5 here. And they're labeled, they're easy. Pa,
Pa.
fa,
Fa.
Fa.
ba,
Ba.
Ba.
bha,
Ba.
ma.
Ma.
Easy. These are Saturn varga. Okay? Now, they have the numerological value from 1 to 5, as you can see. Let us try something. Let us see, where is... where did you... Oh, no, I can do that later also. Okay, let's do Yavarga. The next 9 are the semi-vowels. So we have done all the vowels first, right? Then we had 5 groups, or 3 groups of consonants, right? The 5 groups of consonants are divided into 3 groups instead of 5. You know, ka is 1 and cha is 1. But we put them in one group. Ta is 1 and ta is 1. But we put them in one group. Pa is one group by itself. So all the consonants came into 3 groups. Okay? Now we come to the semi-vowels. So we had vowels, the soul, then the body in between, and then the mind, which are the semi-vowels at the end. Okay? Now, these are starting with Ya Varga. So let's recite them. Ya,
Ya.
Ya.
Ra,
Ra.
Ja.
La,
La.
Va,
Va.
Sha.
Sha.
Ša.
This is Sha,
Sha.
Ša.
Sha.
Sa,
Sa.
Ha.
Ha.
How to differentiate? Tell you easily, very easily. You see this Sha here? This is connected to Cha. So when you say Cha, you can say Sha. Cha, Sha, Cha, Sha, Cha, Sha. your tongue is supposed to be in the same place. They're called talabya. Okay? Talabya. Palatial? Palatial? Yes. No, not palatial. Never mind. This sha is belonging to the group of those which say ta, murdanya. Where you lift your tongue up. When you say ta, remember you say ta? Ta, 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 sha, 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 sha. There's a slight connection there. The only difference is your tongue falls a bit further down, so you can say sha. This belongs to that group of ta varga. So whenever in doubt about pronunciation, try saying ta more, and da more, and na more. Then you'll get sha more. You see how they're connected? This sa here in the end is dental. It's connected to the last Jupiter varga, that ta, ta, da, da, na, sa is the same. So now you won't be in doubt about some of the pronunciations here. They actually have their groups. They're connected. And lastly, ha. What do you say? You like them? Whenever in doubt, no. This is connected to cha. This is connected to ta. This is connected to ta. So these three Shaktis here have had their way already in the creation of some other sounds.
So practically the only difference here, Ra is that we actually say
Yes.
with them.
Okay. Before you had r.
Yes, now it's Ra.
R. Now it's ra. So r became ra. It became manifest here. L became la. Oh, he's fast. He's already here.
He's been gone for more than an hour.
Oh, sure. Now there are some sounds that I mentioned earlier. Remember I said gya? It becomes that gya becomes nya. I mentioned that. There's also something called ksha. Ksha. It becomes that ksha. This one. Not any others? There's this one la which becomes la. This is a different la. It's a different one. I don't really know how to pronounce this honestly, because I can't make out the difference between la and l. I don't know what this is. I'll tell you, I don't really know what this is supposed to sound like. It's some combination of l and la, but not exactly. Anyway, in Katapayadi it's easy, it becomes la. No confusion there. You ever read it anyway, just, okay, it's la. And these are ranging from 1 to 8. So, can you tell me the numerological equivalent of ma?
It's the end.
Correct?
Right.
5. Can you tell me the numerological equivalent of ka?
Kha.
Mm-hmm.
2.
Ka or Kha?
Ka. 2, you said it. Not just ka, but ka. How about fa?
It's 2.
Two as well.
Good.
I
Good.
didn't remember it.
How about nga?
Sorry?
Nga.
Na.
Nga. Not na.
0.
Nga.
No.
I didn't say na, I said nga, like in Ganga.
It's the one.
Five.
It's 5.
5.
You have to listen carefully. You have to train your ear so that you will hear what the person is saying, not what it's supposed to be written like. It's a training of you. Those of you from Serbia will have much more ease in this. Of course, Sandeep has been brought up with a lot of this. So, Latin also. Latin you should be able to work with that. Any Latin language in general. Should be easy. I don't know about Turkish. You should tell me, I'm not sure. Now, tradition. The Katapayadi Varga is based on the Mahashunya, or the empty void. I'll show you where this void is. Yeah, I will show you, don't worry. Which is ruled by the nodes. Okay. For this reason, the numerological value or numeral value of the alphabets of the sun is 0. And the varganka also starts from 0. Do you remember what varganka is? You should go back and study. Okay? Now,
Varganka is the group now.
yes it is.
Varga is
Go
division.
study and see what this means. Okay? You'll see it makes perfect sense. Also starts from 0, assigned to the sun group of vowels. This Katapayari Varga deals with all creation in terms of sheer physical matter. Hence why we're speaking of 7 planets. Right? Stira Karaka. And it can also refer to its absence, which is lacking, which is what we call the shunya. That's when we get numbers which are related to 0. It may be noted that besides the vowels, the 2 letters nya, which includes gya, symbolizing knowledge, and na, symbolizing negation as well as bhakti and devotion, have a numerical value of 0. That's what I explained to you. Jnana. These alphabets belong to the groups of the 2 gurus, Venus and Jupiter respectively. Remember? If I go back, Gya, this portion here from Chatu, Nya, which includes Gya, is Venus. The first half is Mars, the second half is Venus. Right? This first half is Mercury, from Ta onwards is Jupiter. So we have 0 from Venus and 0 from Jupiter. The 2 gurus form the word Jnana. Nicely chosen, isn't it? And their value becomes 0, meaning it's Jnana which leads to spirituality, the soul. Because the 0 value that they get is the same as the 0 value of the vowels. And the vowels are ruled by the sun, which relates to the soul. The system is perfect. Now this is an image so you can see what I'm talking about when I say shunya. You probably never have seen this depicted for you before. Okay? Now watch. You see these 3 boxes here? Well, according to the Shiva Purana, according to the Shiva Purana, Sadashiva and Prakriti, they had a son. That son was called Narayan. Narayan is these 3 boxes here. In fact, it should take up the entire box. Narayan had 3 Shaktis. One Shakti was called, what does it say here? Bhu Shakti, it should say here. Then Neela Shakti, and he also had a spouse or a Shakti called Shri Shakti. And with these 3 Shaktis, by glancing at Bhu Shakti initially, the entire creation started. And this creation started with Vasudeva. What is Vasudeva? Vasudeva is consciousness. So what was the first thing that happened? He became conscious. So when Narayan became conscious, we call that consciousness aspect of Narayan as Vasudeva. So Vasudeva refers to that consciousness which arose, like you're waking up. You wake up. And why did it happen when he looked at Bhu Shakti? Because she represents Rajas, differentiation. Where you start differentiating between you're awake and you're asleep. The first differentiation. I am conscious, I am not conscious. And that Rajas which came from glancing at Bhu Shakti made this consciousness arise first. Then, as this consciousness again mixed with the other gunas of the other Shaktis, different aspects of creation started. But first was Vasudeva. And as you will also see, they don't use say consciousness mixed. They say Vasudeva mixed. And Vasudeva consciousness. Good. Now watch this. You see, this was before consciousness manifested. This was before. All this was before. They say it is like, if you can even describe it, it's like some endless, eternal state of being. Endless and eternal. Completely endless. Eternal. Nothing. and it's sort of in some fixed state. You cannot describe it per se, because it is before something is occurring, before consciousness, before something arises. There's no movement or activity, because the activity was here. Okay. In this, you see this boundary here, right? That is called shunya. This boundary is actually a big, thick boundary. It's called shunya. The rishis are supposed to be meditating on this boundary. They say the rishis cannot perceive this. The rishis who are so high, they cannot perceive this. But they perceive the boundary and they meditate on this boundary. We call it the Mahashunya, the great void. This void is symbolized by Ketu. So when we talk about Ketu and its relevance to spirituality, it is this void we're talking about. Now Vasudeva initially consists of two gunas because of his mixing with Shri Shakti and Bhu Shakti. These two gunas are here. Okay? In this mode there are various aspects of creation which began to arise. But this is still unmanifest. It's not manifest yet. It's still not manifest like this. Birth and death cannot happen then. So to make them manifest, the third guna, Nila Shakti, had to be involved, and it created the entire manifest universe in this portion here. As a result of which we have another border, another shunya. There are two shunyas. This is the other one. This is what we call the Rahu Shunya. So we have Ketu Shunya and Rahu Shunya. Here there are three lokas. Bhu, Bhuva, Swarga. This earth, the galaxy, the stars. Here there are four lokas. Maha, Jana, Tapa, Satya are here. Then the boundary comes. As the rest. If you study Vaishnava literature especially, you will find they describe even more things beyond this. Before this. And you should study it. Shaivite literature does the same thing. They say there was something before this. Because this Narayan was actually the son of two. Of a mother and father. Sadashiva and Prakriti, they say, in Shaivite literature. Shiv Puran says clearly. Sadashiva Prakriti. So is that the same as Maheshwara Shiva or Mahadev Shiva? No, it's Sadashiva. It's a very different level. It's such a high level that even the Vaishnavas, they give a different name and they admit that different traditions give different names of this to describe the same thing. It's a very high level. You cannot understand it. Okay. I hope you can understand it. I cannot yet. I hope you can. The rishis could not even perceive this. Not to talk of anything beyond that.
How can we?
You'll try very hard now. We'll work very hard. Few births. Alright? So this is what we refer to when we speak of shunya. One Ketu shunya called Mahashunya and one Rahu shunya, which is a normal shunya. That's why when we say Rahu Ketu rule the boundaries, what do they rule it? This shunya and that shunya. You like the depiction? It's interesting. How are we going to do it? How are we going to make this decoding of Katapayadi so we can start understanding all this shunya, not shunya, created, non-created and all that? So, we have to convert the sounds of the word. And we're first taking a difficult example, and I'll explain some easy examples also. You take the numbers. Remember we did jnana? We took gya, and we realized it's nya. We took na, and we both found the numbers as being 0. Good. Now that was an easy example. How about vijnana? Take va. What is the numeral value of va? 4. And gya is 0. And na is 0. So you had 4, 0, 0. Reverse them.
Reverse. 004.
0, 0, 4. Right? So you can remove the zeros now. It's just 4. Now you have the value. You have 4. 4 is your number. You will use 4 to understand what the word Vijnana means. So how will you do this? Vijnana means fourth house. Right? Fourth house is number 4. Or Cancer. Karka. Could be one of the two. Depending on how you want to use this. If you want to use Baba, it's fourth house. If you want to use Rashi, it's Cancer. Okay? So, what does Vijnana mean then? It means education. Formal education. Vijnana means formal education. Fourth house. Cancer. Right? How about Jnana without V? It's 0, right? 0, 0, we concluded that. Where's 0 in the chart? Exactly. Because the only link we have to the other world is through Pisces. It only comes through Pisces. The Bindu Visarga chakra is in Pisces. And it has the sound ah or ang, one of the two you have. Okay? Either you have 2 bindus here or you have 1 bindu here. Bindu and Visarga. Bindu Visarga chakra. Have you ever heard of that? People have 2, sometimes maybe 1. Some people have 3, they say. I've heard a hairdresser say that. I don't believe that. It's either 1 or 2. Okay? So, if you have a 0 value, it'll become like Pisces, number 12. So, Jnana refers to 12th house or Pisces. So, Jnana is spiritual knowledge from the Rishis. And Vijnana is formal education, 4th house. Language has become much easier. Did you ever think that you would be using language and trying to interpret language using Jyotish? It's like, I don't know what that means. Okay, do some katapa. Yadi was in the chart, that's what it means. Sitting and have a conversation, you're translating into charts and signs and grahas and rashis. Imagine you add that to looking at that person's chart as they say those words.
Does this apply only for Sanskrit or maybe on English?
Every language which exists and has sounds.
Well, then it is every language, because you cannot have a language without a sound.
Exactly. Every language.
Desha. Desha.
Desha. So which desha is he talking about? The whole desha. Every desha. Desha became adesha. Okay. Now a more difficult example is given here. Let's take the word brihat. This is a difficult example. Brihat. Right? You're supposed to initially write it in Sanskrit to fully understand how the words are connected. And you'll see why it is so evident to do so, because some of these sounds are writing other sounds. For example, in the word brihat, though in Latin script it's written as that this r is written as a separate syllable. In Sanskrit, this r is only this one small curl here. And it's writing ba. This is ba. As you can see, this is ba. Then there's ha. Where did ha go? Over there. Then that we ignore. Why? Because it does not have a vowel sound. So only use the value of those sounds, those Sanskrit sounds which have a vowel associated. If they do not have a vowel in it, ignore it. Okay? A lack of vowels indicates a lack of life in the sound. So you ignore that. As a result of which, we have, in truth, just the sounds ba and ha. And we have to decide what to do about this r. Okay? Ta is half here. The ta is half. So we ignore the ta. I think I'm showing that on the next page. Yes, here we are. Matra. Half-formed letters and matra are to be ignored and removed. So that t sound is half. It doesn't have a vowel after it. A vowel does not follow it. So you ignore it. It's a half consonant, if in truth. Okay? Matra. Symbols of the vowels. I should explain this. A symbol of a vowel is, as you can see here, you see this H sound, right? This ha. Though it has a ha in it, or rather it has an a sound, a vowel sound in it, that a sound is part of the ha. It's part of it. It is not independent. The vowel is not independent. So it is dependent on this ha. And as a result of which we keep ha, but we ignore the a sound in it. The vowel sound, which you would write in Latin as ha, is just h, as far as Sanskrit is concerned. The difference is because there's a vowel sound, it has life. The ha has life. That's why this ta, as it was not followed by an a sound, a vowel sound, it has no life. Can you understand that? Is it clear?
But the first portion is difficult.
We have to work on this first portion now, this br. There's a rule for this, so don't worry, I'm not leaving you hanging there. We'll note this again. It says half-formed letters and matra are to be ignored and removed, with two exceptions. You do not remove r and r. Okay? You do not ignore them. So despite that r sound riding the ba, because this is a rishi sound,
Oh, something happened here.
because this is a rishi sound, it takes precedence over ba. The rishi is stronger than that consonant. Okay? So in brihat, the word br is really B riding the R. That's why this is a difficult example. Had it been normal, brahat, B-R-A-H-A-T, then that R is riding the B. But because of this r, this specific rishi vowel sound, this is dominating over the B. That is the exception. Okay? And the value of r, you know, because of its a vowel, it should be 0. But it transforms as a manifest consonant and becomes ra. What is the value of ra?
It's vowel.
2. Yara. So ra is 2. Okay? So for example, in Brihat, the alphabets are ba, r, riding it, ha, and ta. Ta we already concluded that's half consonant. And r is riding ba, but it's a rishi vowel. So ba gets removed and it's just ra and ha left. You see that?
Why we left ba?
Because r will dominate over ba. It's only one of the two who will survive. Either ra has to go or ba has to go. In this case, since it's r, a rishi sound, ba has to go. Had it been a normal r, ra will go. It's important. No? Do you get that? What are we left with? Ra and ha. Now what was the rule of Katapayadi? Reverse them. So Brihat becomes Hara. Hara is the name of Shiva. So Parashara has hidden in the title of his book, Brihat Parashara Vara Shastra, he's written the word Hara, which means the blessings of Shiva. Here's the reversal. So we have Hara, Ha and Ra. After reversal it becomes Hara. What is the value of Ha? It says there, right? And Ra was 2.
Yeah.
So 82. Now the next step that Jaimini asks us to know is If we have to find a sign associated, we divide by 12. Now that step of the numerology we'll do after the break.